During an interview with Salon.com this past week, former federal prosecutor Glenn Kerscher made a prediction. And his prediction was that Donald Trump is facing a, quote, tidal wave of criminal charges. Now, I like Glenn Kerscher, I respect him, and I think he's very good at what he does. I disagree with him on this. But it's not because I think that Donald Trump hasn't possibly broken the law. To the contrary, I'm fairly convinced that Donald Trump has in fact broken the law. I mean, look at all the available evidence right now. You know, I've talked about this a lot over at Ring of Fire, but sedition is the big one. You know, even Judge Amy Berman Jackson in her sentencing hearing with one of the Capitol rioters this week, you know, called out Donald Trump and plenty of the other people who spoke at that Stop the Steal rally and said that they clearly stoked the events of that afternoon and they should be held accountable. So even stoking, by the way, an insurrection, even if it's a failed insurrection, that still falls under the category of sedition. And I do firmly believe that Donald Trump could and should be prosecuted for that. I think that would be a fairly easy case. You look at what he said at the rally. Go fight for your country or we won't have a country. We're going to march to the Capitol. Other people at the rally said, today's the day we start kicking ass. You could prosecute a lot of people for that. And again, I don't think those cases would be that difficult to prove in court. So there's one instance. The other one, we have the grand jury down in Georgia looking into whether or not Donald Trump interfered with the Georgia election. That is still going on. And, you know, a lot of people tend to forget about that. Of course, we've got the investigations up in New York. We've got his golf courses under investigation. His golf courses over in Scotland are under investigation. There are plenty of reasons why criminal charges could and should be filed against Donald Trump. But I am not confident at all that it will ever happen. Even with what is happening in New York, because obviously that's the big one, I think Trump's getting away with it. I think Trump will not be charged with anything in this. Same thing in Georgia. I do not believe they're going to be able to prove intent. And unfortunately, you have to have that intent or else you're not going to have that specific crime. We know, like, right? We all know, and I've talked about this so many times, like, we know what the intent was. The question is, could you prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in court? Because if you can't, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. It doesn't matter your interpretation of it. It doesn't matter what deep down you know happened. If you can't prove it with evidence, you don't have a case. And that's the part that so many people overlook all the time. And I'm not saying Glenn Kirschner did at all, because I don't think he does. Obviously, the guy was a federal prosecutor. He knows what he's doing. But I think Glenn also has more faith in the system than I do. Donald Trump has gotten away with everything, always has. And at this point, I'm starting to believe that he always will. There's no doubt in my mind that man has broken the law constantly. And that there is evidence to show that he did that constantly. But I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not the person that can bring charges. I'm not the one that has to argue it in court. You know, it's easy for us to sit here and give our, Monday morning quarterback kind of analysis about all these legal problems he should be facing. But at the end of the day, the people who need to bring those charges, the people who need to launch investigations, either can't get the really smoking gun evidence that they need to prove the case, or in some instances, like the DOJ on the sedition issue, they're just not doing it. So I would love to see a tidal wave of criminal charges come against Donald Trump. But there isn't a single part of me that believes that will ever happen.